A beautiful morning to you and welcome to the program International Desk. This beautiful day, I am Mojisola Shulaja. Today, we are moving to a country that is the youngest African nation. We're talking about South Sudan that gained independence 15 years ago. As you all know, a child of 15 years is already finding his or her path. Likewise, South Sudan, though still having some challenges. But then, so far, it is a story of resilience. It is a story of hope and sacrifice. Today, I have joining me virtually James Boboya Edmond. He is the Executive Director, Institute of Social Policy and Research. Good morning.
Yeah, good afternoon, good time.
Okay, it's good afternoon. It's midday in Juba. And I also have the, I also have the Executive Director, Community Empowerment for Progress Organization, that is Edmond Yakani. Good afternoon. Oh, you cannot hear me. Okay, I'll begin the program with James Boboya Edmond. Let's begin this way. Why did South Sudan pull out of Sudan?
Yeah, thank you so much again. You know, South Sudan is a country that got independence in 2011, has been struggling in Africa for since 1950s because of the significant marginalization that the Arabs were making to the Southerners, and the issue of religious differences and economic, social inequalities that were pushed to the people of South Sudan for many years, and because of this, the people of South Sudan then begin to suffer in the hands of in one territory called the Sudan territory. And because of poor governance and the governance that has been characterized by, religious sentiment, for example, the Islamization of governance, and the idea of governing Sudan without a proper constitution and democratization processes, actually led, to the Southerners thinking about a new path, and of course that path was the one that actually led to the conflict between Sudan and the Southern Sudan at the time, which then culminated to the Addis Ababa Agreement of 1982, and later on, of course, that agreement was abrogated by the Sudan government, and the situation even became more worse. And because of that, then the John Garang and his own allies started to wage another war in 1983, and that war then continued until, when people now know that, there is this part of Africa called Southern Sudan that actually deserves to have their own independence in terms of determining their own, self-determination. So I think that then led to, the struggle which the SPLA came into, to begin to fight with the Sudanese government. And in around 2005, then we signed a comprehensive peace agreement. And I think that Americans and the other countries in Africa supported the cause of independence that needs to be written into the comprehensive peace agreement, and therefore in 2015 the comprehensive peace agreement was signed, and then we got our own autonomous government that sort of led the Southern Sudan from 2015, 2005 until 2011, when we now got our own independence, where 99% of the South Sudanese actually voted for independence. So the idea was that then the independence was to go and bring justice, equality, and prosperity to the people of South Sudan.
Okay, Mr. Yakani, thank you so much, Mr. Boboya. Mr. Yakani, let's look at it this way. Are you still there? Okay, let me continue with Mr. Boboya. From then to now, how has the journey been?
The journey in 2011, when we gained our independence, and we saw a number of African countries, a number of, the Gulf countries, a number of countries in Europe and then Asia, of course in America, endorsing our country to become independent. That was significant. There was a total happiness that the people of South Sudan finally gained independence, and the people of South Sudan finally can carry a passport, which is basically determining their nationality, and they can be able to travel all over the world with a South Sudanese passport. And becoming independent was actually good news. But in the middle, the devil came in the spirit of poor governance, in the spirit of elitism, in the spirit of pandemic corruption, and the issue of tribalism and nepotism that actually eaten the spirit of building a governance foundation in South Sudan and the independence day. And coming to 2013, we've seen the disagreement between the political actors within SPLM, Sudan People's Liberation Movement. That disagreement led into a conflict that led to significant amount of loss and poverty and amounts of people that have actually lost lives. Statistics suggest that conflict of 2013 actually led to killing of close to 400,000 people, and probably close to 2 million South Sudanese were driven as refugees. And we got close to 200,000, internally displaced. Those are the statistics. They look like statistics, they're not actual statistics, but they're human statistics. And now the poverty then rose, and the economy then collapsed, and then the misery continues in South Sudan. So I think that is a legacy that we've seen from the 2011 towards 2025. But of course, we saw that there was another conflict that occurred in 2016. Those two conflicts of 2013, 2016 were buried because the government and the opposition parties were able to agree on the revitalized agreement of the resolution of conflict in South Sudan, which is then supposed to help in building reconciliation, justice issues, addressing the economic issues that the country was actually facing, addressing governance deficits, because the conflict has always been a issue about power and how power can be shared. And there was a comprehensive chapter within the peace agreement that was talking about economic governance, public finance reforms and economic governance that could help to redistribute the economic resources in South Sudan, so many people South Sudanese communities can be able to have access to that. But of course, that remains elusive, and it remains just as written in the peace agreement that without the people of South Sudan fulfilling. And now there has been a number of rebel groups in South Sudan, as you can imagine, and access to so many areas in South Sudan remains completely difficult. Mm-hmm. The humanitarian aid remains to become problematic because the Americans have actually cut close to $1 billion. If you look at the South Sudanese budget of 2025-2026, the budget was like 1.5 billion, and if you compare to the American aid to South Sudan, it's 1 billion. So basically, the Americans will take care of, the humanitarian situation in South Sudan. So this funding has gone. Now the suffering continues, and the government has not even provided one framework of to address some of this humanitarian catastrophe. Some of them are coming from flooding and climate change, but majority of the suffering and the plight of the people are actually caused by human, behaviors and the conflict that some of the leaders, both in government and also the government, try to create to continue to resolve some of those situations.
All right, thank you so much. Let's talk about the political aspect now, the relationship between Salva Kiir and Riek Machar.
Yes, when Riek Machar came to Juba, everybody was happy because let me be fair. There is this belief by so many South Sudanese that when Riek Machar is together with His Excellency the President Salva Kiir, there is a peace. So when they see them meeting in Juba, when they see them going, accompanying the president to the airport, going to occasions together, sitting in the Council of Ministers meetings, making announcements in a way that the peace agreement was going forward. People were happy, investors were happy, the international community were happy. They believed that the peace agreement was being implemented. But when the relationship became extremely sour, and of course this relationship was not caused by the president himself, it's caused by the people around the president who believed that one day they'll take over the country from the president, and they caused this chaos to the extent where now Ras Machar is in the house arrest and he can take it every single, 3 times a week to court, and the court proceedings are not getting concluded, and that has actually worsened the situation. So there's a regression, and I have to say again, there's a regression from the gains of the peace agreement, and that's the reason why we've seen the people of South Sudan suffering. You've seen now the economy is collapsing. Today, the fuel price is 18,000. That's basically like almost $2 per liter of fuel.
Sure, okay.
The South Sudanese currency has increased to 720,000 SSD. And the people in South Sudan and the people in Juba, when you see them, they walk like mad people because the situation is not bearing anymore. People are not able to predict how the future is supposed to be. But with the implementation of peace agreements, of course, there's a prediction. People know that tomorrow this is how the situation is going to be because the strategies and governments are different.
Okay, now I appreciate your contribution so far. We have talked about the political aspect of it, and from the little videos I've seen online, there is infrastructure development, though there are still some instances of corruption. But are the people actually feeling the results of this independence at all? The gains of independence.
Yes. No, there are some good news in terms of what government is trying to do. I know that because of pandemic corruption and the failure of government to put in place the public finance and management and accountability processes, the government doesn't have enough money, because even now the investors are actually are not able to come in. But the number of positive results, for example, the government is able to build, using our internal resources from the oil, they're able to build close to 100 and something kilometers of road to area called Bor. And this tarmac of that road has actually improved the lives of many South Sudanese in that area. For example, now they're able to venture into the fish industry, and they're able to now bring fish from Bor to Juba and to Uganda, and to now our fish is actually going to the Democratic Republic of Congo. So economically speaking, that road is beginning to earn empowerment economically for our people. But of course, there's also a major road construction going on between Juba and Tereketa, and also going to Barakazalito. That road has been marred with a lot of irregularities and also corruption. But of course, now the president seems to be starting authority on that road now to make sure that road continues to be built. Of course, as we're talking now, the road continues to be built. The cost has been extremely high, and it's eaten so much of the oil resource that could have gone to other sectors. But of course, that road construction is going on. We've seen, of course, some health facilities being constructed. For example, in Juba, the Chinese are actually building, big, larger buildings, which will be used for, providing health services, which is also good news. But of course, there are also focus on other small development that's happening there. But of course, that is not what the people want to see. People want to see a robust infrastructure development that is more durable, that is more usable by the people, that's more beautiful, that's more, liked by the people, that can also increase access. But of course, still the government seems to be struggling on that front. What that is more largely behind that, the fact that the president and the vice president, also has a contribution to people discussing these issues and service delivery. Now they spend too much time talking about how to maneuver each other from the leadership and the political scene. So that's also one of the negative impacts.
Okay, thank you so much. I want us to talk about the 2018 peace agreement and how effective has the implementation been. The 2018 peace agreement.
The peace agreement about it, yes. Yes, the 2018 peace agreement has significant provisions. For example, one of the provisions was to ensure that by now we should be able to have our, reconciliation processes in place. We should establish an Ivory Court that could try the people who begin to perpetrate the conflict in South Sudan. By now, we're supposed to be having 83,000 armed forces more integrated in the name of unified forces, and these forces are going to be deployed all over South Sudan to secure the territorial integrity of the country. That has not happened in a way. For example, we now be able to meet close percent of the unified forces. Again, we're supposed to have, mapping systems. The reform is more slow, and that has not happened. And that's how we should put a constitution, which then is supposed to guide the elections. And I think the issue around the lack of the implementation of that particular provision that's supposed to have help us to have a common constitution has a significant and fundamental bearing in the way we're supposed to end the transition in South Sudan. And that's the reason why you're seeing that lot of discussions around how can the elections be conducted, what's the constitution to be used, and the agreement does not allow us to revert back to old constitutions. It's asking us to move forward and be more progressive in building a new constitution. So these are the issues that probably is affecting South Sudan. So until those issues are resolved, I think it will be extremely difficult for discussions around ending the transition in South Sudan.
Okay, thank you. Now, you have talked about that now. So what is the fate of Riek Machar now?
I mean, the fate of Riek Machar right now is that he continues to be detained. He continues to be going every 3 days a week to the court, and the court is not actually concluding very soon. And there's a mounting pressure on daily basis for the president to release Riek Machar, so Riek Machar can go back as the first vice president, and then they will continue to have a dialogue, inclusive, constructive dialogue, and come up with proposals of how the transition can be ended. And because without Riek Machar in the current structure of negotiations and dialogue, it's difficult for one party to determine how the transition can be ended. But now the legal implication is that when the president then pardons Riek Machar and asks for the resolution of the current court case, it will set a precedent of that the court system is no longer working because it's been interfered politically. So our advice, of course, for many years and many months is that let the court cases go conclude very soon. If they're going to announce that Riek Machar is guilty or not guilty, let that pronouncement be made, and then let the president then go out and pardon Riek Machar, and then they come back and reconcile and begin to develop a framework for ending the transition. That's the only way we could see the sanity coming to South Sudan. Because even when we talk about elections, there's lots of areas, material small areas, but they're under the control of the opposition groups. And we want to see a very holistic and nationwide peace building. We want to see that people are able to reconcile and integrate into the army, and those who are able to integrate into the army, they're supposed to be, demobilized and trained, and they're reintegrated to the communities, so they begin to help in the community building and also the peace building agenda. Because then we're able to build sustainable justice system and sustainable peace building and sustainable development in South Sudan. Because right now it's difficult. And when we talk about the SPLMS, they say they are the leading in South Sudan. They are not offering those constructive incentives and also guidance of how the country can progress. So this kind of discussions could also provide a bit of hope and also a confidence within different groups and also build trust. Because right now the trust deficit is so high with political actors, and the trust deficit between even political actors and South Sudanese themselves is so high. The trust building between the political leaders and the international community who want to help South Sudan financially is actually more high. And because of this mistrust, investors, supporters, financiers, and anybody who wants to come and help South Sudan, they feel like, let us wait. So now we are actually locked up in a waiting room without actual progress of moving in any of the directions that could help us to move into ending the transition.
Okay, now the first post-election is it has been postponed several times. And how hopeful are you that this particular one scheduled for 22nd December will hold?
It will only hold on two fronts. One, that the voices of the masses and quickly work on a permanent constitution, or work on a constitution guidance. Because without the constitution, there will never be elections. Because first of all, the current constitution 20 as amendment has integrated in it the peace agreement. And in the peace agreement, it defines that there's a president, there's five vice presidents, that there are 550 members of parliament, that there are more than maybe 100 members of council state, that the number of states and their own governments, the number of ministers at national government, which is like more than 35 ministries, at the state level, each state has 17 ministries, that was supposed to reduce down. So I think we're able to do all with that and define the kind of government we want. Is it federalism, is it decentralization, or so on and so forth? Then we're able to have a very integrated constitution, which then guides the time of election. Because right now, we don't know whether we're going to go for executive elections, which is called presidential elections, or we're going to go for general elections, where the elections the members of parliament, the members of the states, the MPs at the state level, the county commissioners, and so on and so forth. So that has not been determined. So once we have a new constitution that has defined the elements of what type of election we want to go for, then we're going to amend our electoral act to be in conformity with this new constitution. We're going to restructure the national election-related institutions. Then after that, we're ready to go for elections. In terms of how we will not do even voter, sectors, but the voter registration stuff like that. So it's going to be more legally defined by the constitution. Right now, that is action and it's not been discussed publicly. Now, the second scenario is for the government to obligate the peace agreement and completely do away with it, and they revert back to 2011 constitution, and they will never assume there was no peace agreement in place. And then that means there's been a coup in South Sudan against the constitution, the peace agreement, and then we'll move to that constitution in 2011, and then they'll go quickly and run elections. If we have a constitution in place, the December 22nd election will take place, because then the requirements are in place. But right now, it's not in place. But there's a high-level assumption by the political leadership here that things are normal. You see, they pretend things are normal, but things are normal because we fought for. The reason why this fighting happened is that there is supposed to be a constitutional order.
Okay.
For a country that is not governed by constitutional order.
All right, thank you so much, James Boboya Edmond, the Executive Director, Institute of Social Policy and Research. We appreciate your time with us on the program International Desk today. Thank you for being on the show, Edmond.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and that's all we have for you on the program International Desk for this week. Just as the story of corruption is real, there is silence of the people is also real. We wish the people of the Republic of South Sudan the best. Yes, thank you for being a part of the program. Join us same time next week. Till then, goodbye.